We are in Mayflower, Arkansas, with Jim Schenkel and his guest pastor Hollis, who is also known as Jason Hollis, the owner of Yogo City Pizza Pros. And Yogo has been feeding a lot of people lately, and we're going to visit with him and to see how not only you can help just by driving over there, but what else can we do? Jim, can you talk to us?
Yes, I can. I appreciate your taking us this time. This may be our last interview. We're going to go over to Bologna, and we may have elevated Jason to pastor. I'll let him say whether he's been ordained since the last time I heard.
Whoa,
I know he
sorry.
is. No, it's not your fault. I miscommunicated that earlier. What we've got, though, is a situation I think that is representative of the businesses here in Mayflower. We talked a bit of this to his dad in the last segment about the impact, the unintended consequences of what goes on by a lot of well-meaning people to be able to help out in a community, but how some of those resources coming on can affect a business. But I'd like to ask Jason, first of all, I mean, where was he when it happened and what's happened to him since, and then talk to us about the business.
Well, I was actually at home with my family in Conway, Arkansas, which is just a few miles north of here, and started hearing the phone calls and actually texts from friends and family asking how my family was doing, and I wasn't quite sure at that moment. So started contacting them after the storms had hit, just trying to get in touch with people across the next hour or so, getting everyone put together, and everyone was actually fine and well. Really just started trying to get into Mayflower just to see what we could do to start cleaning up the damage and assess really with homes and businesses what was actually, the aftermath of this storm. So.
What about, Jason, yourself and other businessmen in this community and businesswomen in this community and surrounding communities? Talk about what people have done to be able to come together to help each other and to, both in terms of cleanup as well as where they are spending their time these days. Are they back at their own homes trying to work with their families? It's had to have been a devastating thing mentally as well as a lot of physical damage.
Right. Well, some of the business owners around the area, a lot of them are from Mayflower and live in the city limits, but some of us, like myself, don't live here in town. So there was a lot of people really going after the need immediately of the individuals and families in their homes. Even myself going out and handing out, free food and water and what we could do to individuals, not only the volunteers that are helping with all the debris cleanup and just disaster relief, but those that were affected directly by the storm. The aftermath of that, though, is that we obviously have businesses in town that people frequent, and it's part of our income for the stores that they actually come in and eat here. So with some of the people, it's a bittersweet moment when you see that people are coming into the town to help, just like we were, but at the same time, eventually life goes back to normal, and we've got to get these businesses back up and running and running their regular volume where we keep the doors open for the community in the near future.
So it's almost kind of an ironic, that's a terrible word, I mean, but it's one of those kind of ironies that happens, is that a lot of people come in, a lot of food comes in, and the feeding takes place, and yet businesses like this, like restaurants that depend on the local traffic, all of a sudden it becomes a desert island. So they're not getting what they need to have in terms of resource, and then it's a very difficult time through that, and then finally, eventually, everybody goes away, the free food goes away, and hopefully the business is still here. But talk a little bit about how it's impacted you guys from a volume standpoint, number of meals, or however you keep score like that.
Well, if you look at the total revenue for the store right now, we're at about 35%. Last week we did about 35%, so that's just the week directly after the storm of what our normal average volume is in terms of revenue for the store. We actually have had some local churches that have come to us if they're going to do some kind of feeding or donation of food, they're actually coming into town to purchase from local businesses. That way they're not bringing in food from other places, and these stores are starving, if you will, because they're not being able to produce the food that's usually taken into the community. We hope that it picks up this week, but we still have people in town feeding. We have a lot of people that have left town because of the disaster. They don't have a place to stay here. And some that have just, their normal routine has kind of changed. Maybe the pocketbook, it's not available for them right now because of money that they know they're having to allot to something else based on recovery or rebuilding. So it definitely has taken a toll on the business side here in town.
Well, I will say this, that the pizza is outstanding, and nobody tell my wife, Gwen, that I had an extra piece on their buffet. So you guys in the neighborhood, come over. I mean, Little Rock is down the road about 30 minutes, 20 minutes, North Little Rock. Conway's up there about, like you said, about 20 minutes away or less. And, come visit this. You guys are at what location, what exit off the interstate? I guess it's the only Mayflower exit.
It's the only Mayflower exit, and we're right here at the only shopping center in town on Highway 365, right near the Harps and Dollar General stores. So,
one final area, and then Susan, I'll kick it back to y'all if y'all have any more questions. But talk about some of your neighbors and some of the things that have happened to them as far as difficulties they've been going through. But I mean, pulling together at the same time as a community. I know your church has done an awful lot for their community. And what about other things that are happening here where people are pulling together?
Well, you do see kind of just the general area of Arkansas when something's ripping through like a tornado so close to home that people in Conway who weren't directly affected by the storm, it does take an emotional toll on you just to see friends and family and what they're having to go to, or just we've had from my church alone, over 1,000 volunteers that have come through town between Valonia and Mayflower just in the past week. And just to see some of the things, you hurt for people. The church is the body of Christ, and God is after His bride always. So as Christians, we hurt for the body of Christ when we can see that they're hurting. So definitely, that's probably the big thing, is just to see people hurting and what's going on. That's the major effect around the communities. But being able to go in and be a part of that, where you're actually cleaning up and helping people rebuild immediately, is a sense of satisfaction that you're actually being the hands and feet of God and a light to the world, and showing people who Jesus is, when they may not know or have had a relationship or an experience like that with Jesus.
Susan or Scott, I know that Susan, you're there, and you were pushing up against the deadline. But go ahead.
Yeah. Well, one of the things, focusing back on that immediate, easy to see, need for these businesses. I would love to get a short list even of the businesses that would really appreciate if people from afar, from across the country, could go to their website, could call them up and say, I'm going to give you the money for a gift card. And here's the money for a gift card, and you distribute it as you need to feed somebody, to feed a family, whatever it is. Buy a meal for folks out of state. Send whatever you were going to spend on your lattes for the week, everybody, put it towards a gift card for Mayflower, Arkansas, for one of those businesses. So it helps the business and it helps the people there, because you'll provide meals after all the free food has gone. That is the need. It's kind of like when people only donate at Christmas. People are hungry all year round. So, I would suggest that we get that kind of list. What do you think, Jim?
Oh, outstanding, Susan. I think it's great, and I think, there's got to be a way we consolidate that. Let's first start consolidating on the website, and so that people know where to go, and we're just going to follow up. This is not the end of the time we're down here. We're going to be the second wave and continue to support the community and these individuals and institutions.
All right, Jim. Well, I appreciate having Pastor Hollis on. Oh, he's not a pastor. Having Mr. Hollis
That's
on.
That's okay. Let me kick it over to him for any final words that he's got, sure. And then we'll do a wrap on this.
All right.
Well, we definitely appreciate all the churches, all the organizations, this as well, coming by just to shine a little bit of a light on what's going on here in these local areas of Valonia and Mayflower, and the way that they've been affected. But definitely, we're not forgetting the house on the hill, and we know that God has not turned His back on us, that He's definitely jealous of us in our hearts, and he's jealous for the people in Mayflower and in Valonia and the surrounding areas, and we're very thankful for that. And that is the one thing that actually brings a tide of hope to this area, is how much God is just jealous and after the people in these towns, and loves them just as much as anybody ever. And we're very thankful for the churches and groups and the community that have come out just to be the hands and feet of Jesus Christ and just a symbol of hope in these areas.
Well, Jason, let me say this. You may not be Pastor Hollis, but you preach it like a brother who's out there on the pulpit. So good, very good. Susan, I appreciate all y'all's help in the control room. We'll give it back to you, and appreciate so much the opportunity to come down here to Mayflower and to the area and do what we can.
All right, Jim. Thank you so much for bringing your world and sharing all this with us so we can choose to help you out.